Well, I'm going to start this early, and it looks as if we are good to go. But being that I'm in here early, I guess we can have a little fun with this. Being that the show is not supposed to start for about 6 minutes, so I'm not officially going to get into anything until 9 o'clock. I don't want anybody, I don't know what everybody does out there. And if they were planning to not tune in till 9, I don't want them to tune in to 9, the starting time, and then having missed something. That's how people get ticked off, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to kind of sit here and talk a little bit. And of course, that's what I do for the live show anyway. But we will officially start at 9 o'clock. It was a beautiful day here in Clearwater Beach, Florida. And I I finished most of Friday's episode today, which is usually the day that I do that. I try to get it done on Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Sometimes it leaks over into Thursdays, but and it will in this case, but just a little bit more to do tomorrow. In fact, I'll be talking a little bit about some changes I've made in the production of the program just within the last month. Maybe, of course, as we get back to more interviews, maybe it will be obvious to you. But I've been working, thinking a lot about that, how to change some things. And so we're moving in the right direction, always looking to raise the quality of the program. So I'll be talking about that. But so I was working on that. Tomorrow I already have the interview done for next Friday's episode. And then tomorrow I'll be doing an interview that will not be heard until May 21st. So this is fairly unusual, getting an interview done that far before the episode's going to come out. I really don't like to get too much far in advance than that. As I think I stated, maybe it was in the update episode, or even I know I've talked about it on this live show before, that I'm not going to do like they do game shows, where they film for like a month, and they get all these stacked up, and then they play them throughout the year. And of course, Pat Sajak, Vanna White, and all these other, of course, Alex Trebek is no longer with us, but they get to relax like for the rest of the year. They get paid for that month, and then they can do whatever they want for the rest of the year. It's a nice gig if you can get it. They film The Price is Right like that. Most of these game shows, that's the way they do it. And I would never want to do Unfound that way. It's a little too assembly line-ish for me, a little too Henry Fordish for me. But so those are the things that are going on. Of course, tomorrow, Thursday evenings are always trivia, unless I'm doing an interview with Dr. Telesco. My team is finally back together, and they've all gotten their vaccinations. I've still not gotten mine, but they've gotten theirs, and so now everybody's back to playing trivia on Thursday nights, and we're back to old form, winning as usual, and I love to win, as there's no surprise there. So that'll be tomorrow evening. May go shoot some guns on Friday morning before the episode comes out. So those are some of the plans within the next few days. Made some chicken wings today from about 2:30 until 5 o'clock, ate them, and then played a little disc golf, came back and got a shower, did my hair, etc. So that's what's been going on with me. And we are just about to 9 o'clock when the show is to officially start. But I'm glad that no live problems this week. Thank goodness. Unlike last week. Once again, as I've stated, sometimes YouTube just throws things in there and doesn't tell anybody about them. And for people who do videos or live shows maybe every day or something, then maybe it's not a big deal. For those of us, though, who maybe once a week, twice a week, it's a little bit of a surprise. And I hate that, but it's almost like clockwork. Like every 6 months, they change something. I don't know what they're doing. All right, it's 9:00. So let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to the live show for May 5th, if you can believe it, of 2021. I am, of course, Unfound's host, Ed Densel. Got in here a little bit early just to make sure that the streaming was going to work through YouTube, and it is going very smoothly. Very excited about that. Over to my left, you're right. I have a nice outline of a show ready for all of you, as I usually do, coming to you with some topics. Had some excellent questions asked of me before the show started that I will be answering over the course of the show. You know how I like to sprinkle those in. Then before it's all over, I will be talking about this Friday's episode. And this Friday, we go back to the regular format of Unfound, of doing interviews and covering specific disappearances. We had 2 weeks. First of all, the Q&A show that was almost 4 hours long, and then the update episode that was over 4 hours long. Crazy. But this week, I think the episode is, the disappearance episode is about an hour and 40 minutes long, I think. And I'm just about done with that. If you are watching, as you are watching, even if you are watching this in a replay, please give this video the thumbs up. I hope you like what you're watching. And if you do, whatever kind of device you are using, I hope you will give this video a thumbs up. And that helps us with the YouTube algorithms. And you should know, just recently, we went over 12,000 subscribers on the channel. It's just crazy. Completely insane. Never could have expected it. I know there are other true crime channels with way more listeners or subscribers and views and everything. And as I think I've told you in one way or another, I'm usually suspicious of all that because I know how people will cheat. But we are here. So once again, as you are watching, please give this a thumbs up. And if you are not yet a subscriber to the Unfound Podcast Channel that you are on right now, please do so. And no video accompanying the episode this week, but surely next week there will be a video to accompany next Friday's episode. So now is as good a time as ever to become a subscriber to the channel. Hit that little bell so when we upload new videos, it will automatically ding you, ring you, and let you know that there is a new video to watch. So let's see who is in here. Some of you got in here early because you are subscribers. And of course, if you are a subscriber and you have that the bell hit, when anything goes live, you automatically know it. So some of you have been in since I came in here at about 8:55 p.m. Eastern time. Linda was first. Way to go, Linda. Karen, Valerie, going to answer your question. Great question, Valerie. Thank you for giving me a chance to answer that question. Louise from the UK. Anna Lou, CR. Marlene, I got a question from Marlene. LaFord, Jasmine, Susan. Cherie, thank you for moderating tonight. Charlotte, Joyce. Got to speak to Joyce Rivatuzo a little bit this past weekend. It was a joy. She called me, and we must have talked for like about 45 minutes. Always enjoy that, Joyce. Thank you for the call. Marlene says, beautiful day here as well. Milo and I sat by pool and enjoyed the afternoon. Wow, seeing the birds in the bath and the low humidity. Well, you mustn't be in Florida then, Marlene, with that low humidity. Hello, Twinkle. Hope you're doing well. Marlene had wings with pizza. I can't eat pizza these days, Marlene. Too many carbs. And I'm going to get to my diet in a second. Linda says we've been raining for a week. My computer keeps resetting. Wow. Okay. Twinkle says YouTube has similar traits to 48 hours. Twinkle, don't get me started. Hello, Kathy. There's Kathy. Hello, Screaming. Screaming Skull. What's up, Melissa? Come on, Eileen. And Melissa, this is for you. Hope you're doing well out there. And thank you. Yeah, over 12,000. It's really crazy. Charlotte says, I'm in some graphic groups and told them about Unfound and suggested that they might like to check it out. That is a big shout out to you, Charlotte. Thank you for spreading the word. Deeply appreciated. And okay, so that's everybody that's in here so far tonight. If you don't know, got some hair in my mouth there. It's really weird. This live show tends to gather more viewers the longer it goes into the night. We usually have more viewers at like 10:30 p.m. Eastern time than we do when the show starts. Maybe people from the West Coast. You know, I can't make everybody happy with the time. That's just the way it is. But maybe some people getting up in Australia. I don't know. Over there in the what would be the Eastern Hemisphere. I don't know. But it's really weird that usually around the time we're starting to wind down the show is when the most viewers are watching. I don't know. So Melissa says, I can definitely tell you're losing weight. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Marlene says she's in Texas. It's a great state. Okay. Hello, Ann. What's going on, Ann? Thanks for joining in. So it's been beautiful here. Can't remember the last day it rained. So I've been out on the beach and and doing a little putting in the evening. I have a practice basket. I have a little wagon that I can take out onto the beach. I put this collapsible basket in there with discs. I'll just walk out, go downstairs, go out to the beach and do some putting in the wind for like 45 minutes. It's really beautiful out there. It's something new that I'm doing because playing disc golf in the wind is difficult, and putting, so those close, like 20-foot throws that you have to put into the basket. You wouldn't think that would be the big deal when it comes to wind, but it is. It really is. And so I've discovered that my putting in the wind isn't as good as it should be. So as you probably know, out here at the beach, most of the time it is much windier than it is inland. So I've just started going out to the beach here, making some time in the evening as the sun is going down. It's beautiful. So I'll go out there about, 7 o'clock and putt till about 7:45 as the sun's getting close to being on the horizon. And it's not too hot out. I don't have to worry about getting burned or anything like that. So it's just been really beautiful. Coffee, that's perfectly fine. Your views are mostly women and they have to put their kids to bed. Coffee, you may be right. I don't know. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm not in everybody's house out there, but it is true that 80% of Unfound's audience is women, and that is true for most true crime programs, both podcasts and TV shows. Marlene says, sounds like your diet is going well. Going to get to that. Coffee says, I don't have kids, but many others do. I don't have kids either. Coffee. Going to talk about Barry Morphew, Louise. Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you, I posted this on my private Facebook page, and I know many of you are friends with me on there, and that's fine. That's great. I got nothing to hide there. I try, as you noticed probably, if you are friends with me on Facebook, I don't do a lot of talking about Unfound on there. I try to keep it light. I try to be funny. I post old pictures and or new pictures. And like I said, I stay away from politics and all that stuff on there, because at some point, people who post stuff over and over and over again that is divisive, they just get to be bores to me personally. So I try to keep it light. I make fun of myself. I make fun of my disc golf play. I may brag about some things that I'm doing, but I also will be very hard on myself and other things. I try to keep it, right there, kind of averaging out to right there in the middle. But this actually happened to me, and some of you probably don't know about this, but I think it's a funny story, and it's appropriate because I'm sitting within feet of where this happened. I live in this place, and I've just passed the 2-year mark. I moved in here May 1st of 2019, and I continue to tell all of you that never, could I have imagined living in a place like this. As you know, that I think I've said this, and I don't mind anybody knowing this, but I only pay half for living here. My dad pays the other half. And this has been going on for 2 years. Frankly, if it was up to me and it was just my own money, I'd still be living at my place down in Madeira Beach, my little tiny place. And probably a good thing that I don't live there anymore. It got flooded last year, so I would have lost everything. So due to a tropical storm that came here, maybe September of last year or something. So, but I pay for half. My dad pays for half. It's so he has a place to come down to if he wants to come down. Of course, he's been here, and then he always leaves early, which what are you going to do? But it's a nice place. And if you were to look this place up online and look at what these condos go for when they are sold, it's not unusual for some of these places to be sold for like in the $800,000 range. Just being honest. I think I've been more very transparent about my address and everything else. I have nothing to hide. But the rent that I pay for half. My dad pays for half. I've never met the people who own this particular condo. I don't even know their names. I just know that they live up in Ocala somewhere and they're doctors. That's all I know. I write out my check to the realty company. And so because of it being this type of place, there are some people in here who are a little hoity-toity. I'm certainly not the typical type of person who lives here. And I gathered that very, very early on. But in addition, being that most of these places are just owned, most people do not live in this building. These places are rented out for a week, a month. Very few people are living here year round. I'm one of the few people, and this building is huge. So most of the year, I have this entire floor to myself. So there's 2 elevators right over here, and there are 4 condos. There's a condo over here, and then 2 condos over that way. So 2 on this side, 2 on that side. And usually, I'm the only person. I have this whole floor to myself most of the time. And I love that. So I'm used to kind of doing certain things on this floor, and kind of having it to myself. I'll go out here. I'll put my disc golf basket out there. I'll putt. I'll sit out there and with my chair and look east. I've taken some pictures for all of you over this time, that particular direction over the bay. You can see the lights of Clearwater that way. And of course, that way is west. That's where the beach is. And the reason it's so expensive is because you're right here on the beach. That's why. It's not unusual. We all know that living on the beach costs a lot more. And they're going down this way south in Bel Air Beach. I mean, there are some houses down there that are just crazy. So, but once again, I could never afford to live here if my dad wasn't paying half, something that he offered to do way back in 2019. And so he goes, "Will you find a place? I'll pay for half." Okay. And I did. But what happened was that I'm used to just kind of, it's Florida, and I will be on my phone and I'll walk out here onto the landing over here and everything. Well, my neighbor who is now here, they own this place over here to right here. Mine's 8B, theirs is 8A, and it's a 3-bedroom. Mine is a 2-bedroom. Theirs is a 3-bedroom. It's huge. Well, I happened to be out there one day talking on the phone with my shirt off, not trying to show off. Once again, I'm just used to doing things a certain way up here because I never see anybody. They went and complained. They went and complained because I was out there on the landing with my shirt off, talking on the phone. And so the complaint got back to me through the real estate agent, who I've gotten to know very, very well. Love her a lot. Very nice woman. I see her every month when I pay the bill. We sit there and talk. Like her a lot. But the complaint had gone to the building manager, which is a totally different person, different office. And so I went down there to talk to the building manager about this. And it turned out that the time that I was thinking of wasn't even the time that these neighbors, who I don't even know what their name is, complained about. So in a way, I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, the time, because I explained to them what I thought happened, and what they told me was the neighbors had talked about some totally different thing, and I don't even remember that. So I don't even know what these people were talking about. So we had a discussion, myself, the building manager, the assistant building manager, and they were totally cool about it. Okay. They have a job to do. I understand that. Okay. I'm not going to change their mind. They're not going to change my mind. But I just simply told them, I just want you to know that I don't understand this. Okay. It's Florida. It's hot. There's people. And I think part of the issue is they're trying that, because of this type of place, the way it is, they're trying to keep it classy, and it is expensive. I've already told you that. But, and I think what they're afraid of, you let one guy walk around with his shirt off, then, before you know it, everybody's walking around with their shirts off, I guess. And I guess they see this kind of slippery slope type of thing. Whereas, I can tell you that, given that I know that this is the type of place, I never go downstairs to get my mail or anything. Even when I go out to the beach, when I've told you I've been putting, I wear a shirt until I get out there. All right. And, but here up on my floor, it would seem that things would be a little, different. And I guess not. And so I just had to tell them, and we parted fine, myself and the building manager. And I've talked to the assistant building manager many times. And the funny thing is, she is a listener of this program. She knows what I do. She knows what I do. And I didn't even have to tell her. She found out from, I think, the real estate agent. But I just told them, I'm going to follow the rules, but I really don't understand it. And they said some things, but I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just going to tell you my side of it. But it was kind of funny. And it's like, well, this is Florida, and it is 80 some degrees out, and on and on and on. And I'm thinking, if these people don't want to see men walking around with their shirts off, they should have bought a condo in Alaska. So that happened. That happened recently. So I told them, you know what, I get it. I'll behave myself. Not going to tick off the neighbors. But I think the other thing is that, we're all adults here. I'm 50 years old, and I think they're around my age, maybe a little older. If they had a problem with something that I did, they could have just come to me and talk about it. They could have just, that's the part of it I think that really gets me. That if they were doing something that ticked me off, I wouldn't go down to the building manager. I would just go over there and say, hey, and if they were smart with me, then I might have to get a third party involved. But that they went right to the building manager. Our doors are within about 30 feet of each other, less, than that. That's what gets me. When I've seen them, I've been friendly to them. I've said hi. And then they turn around and stab me in the back and go complain to management about me. Hate that. I hate it. To me, that's a lack of character. I would never be really nice to somebody and then go tell on them behind their back. I would never do that. Never do that. So that's, I think, the point that really got to me. If they want to, they're trying to keep this place classy and everything. Of course, the bizarre part is I've lost like almost 10 pounds. I'm looking fantastic. And then somebody complains that I have my shirt off. Now, there is some irony there. But that's what happened. And I know a lot of you are talking about all of this. Marlene's saying we're hoping to be Floridians before the end of the year. Wow. Okay, Marlene. Remember to hit those. Just don't talk on the phone shirtless outside. Well, yeah, I know that, Linda, but once again, it's Florida. I'm up on the 8th floor. I'm not parading down in the, in the lobby of this place where people get on the elevators and everything else, which I think would be something totally different. Thank you, Joel. Thank you for loving this channel. Thank you. Sheree says, sounds like they don't have a whole lot going on. My goodness, what in the world? I know, Sheree. Eileen says, was the complaint because you weren't wearing a shirt or because you were talking on the phone? It seems pretty ridiculous. I think it was more the shirt than the phone, Eileen. If I had to guess. The issue, Eileen, is that this building is horrible for cell phone reception. So sometimes I do have to go out inside. In fact, I'm going to be talking about how I've been able to improve the quality of the phone calls just recently with this new phone, and hopefully you'll notice it during these new interviews. But sometimes you have to go out to the landing to talk. And that's, I think, why I was out there. But the time, once again, the time that they mentioned to the building management was different from the time I was thinking of. So I don't even know what they're talking about. Joel says, yeah, sounds like they're super bored. Okay. Valerie says, yep, sounds like my HOA. Well, they do have an HOA here, but I don't think these people are part of the HOA. In fact, they're rarely here. I've lived here 2 years. I think this is the first time I've ever seen them. They rent this place out, but there's usually nobody over there. I mean, I've lived here 2 years. I would say that somebody's been in that condo over there a total of 6 weeks out of the 2 years I've been here. Sheree, so many other issues to be concerned about. A 50-year-old man with no shirt on doesn't even make the list around here. I know. I'm not offended, Sheree. We live in Florida, Joyce says, for God's sakes, it's hot and muggy. Twinkle says, Ed's becoming an exhibitionist, and don't get me started, Twinkle. We're not going there with this conversation. Yeah, especially in a coastal town. I would think some of the little old ladies in the building would have liked seeing you. Okay, Twinkle, thank you. Like I said, looking at them, they're probably a little older. They're probably in their 50s, but that's probably it. Uh-huh. Larry said, fast forward. Larry, don't get blocked. Sheree, don't do anything to get blocked, Larry. Screaming. Perhaps the wife was looking and the husband got upset. That crossed my mind. Most of the people are from the north. Remember that? Yes, these people, I'm not going to name where they're from, but I was told where they are from. I'm not going to try to judge people when they're from. That would be wrong, but I didn't mention it. Somebody else mentioned it. Marlene says, I'm having a big laugh regarding these people. Yeah. Do you have a balcony? I do have a balcony, Charlotte, over that way, which I get no reception on that side of the building, only on this side. Shang up your... Okay, Paula, I'm not going to read that. What's on the agenda, Ed? Well, we're going to get to that. So that's my, I think that is the second time in 2 years that somebody's complained about me. The first time was also a weird one that I'm not going to get into now. But that's my getting in trouble for being shirtless while on the phone outside of my condo story. Let's move on to this. This weekend, got a disc golf tournament that Unfound is sponsored. We are one of many sponsors. It is a women's only event, and it's taking place over here at Taylor Lake, where I just was earlier today. And my friend Alicia is running it, but this is a global event on Saturday. That there are women's disc golf events, women only disc golf events taking place over the entire world. And Unfound is happy to be sponsoring the one here locally at Taylor Lake. I think there are going to be over 100 women there. And there's probably a women's only event going on in your area, wherever you are. And if you'd like to check disc golf out for the first time, you can go to pdga.com/tour/events to find out if there is an event, a women's only event in your area on Saturday around you. So you might want to check that out. Anna says, happy could catch you live. Well, Anna, thank you. Spicy's late. That's okay. Twinkle says, I agree with you, Ed. It's offensive that you were friendly to them and then they did this behind your back. I know. Thank you, Anna. Moving on. Once again, another topic that if you follow me on my personal page, I bought. The car stuff is kind of on the back burner, and I'm not going to get into that. We're already like a half hour in to this, but I got an electric keyboard. I'm going to start playing the piano again, or a keyboard again, which has a piano setting on it. I got it. Was it yesterday or the day before? Might have been Monday. And it's a Kwai, just like the piano I used to have way back in Pennsylvania when I lived there. And if you'd like to look it up, it is a electronic keyboard, a Kwai, and it is a model MP7 SE. It is fantastic. I already know it's fantastic. And so I'm going to start getting into that again. I used to be a piano player back in the day. My mother started me on the piano when I was 5 years old. She was a piano teacher. And so I gave it up for a long time. I've not played in over 10 years, but it's something that I've been meaning to do, wanted to do, thinking about it, and finally decided to do it. And it was actually a conversation with a clerk at the mobile convenience store down the street who's also a piano player. We started talking about it, and she said she had just gotten a new keyboard. And we started talking about Beethoven. We started talking about some other music. And I was like, I think the universe is speaking to me. I think it's speaking to me. I think it's, so I started doing a little research on it, and that's what I got. Joel says it's a high dollar keyboard. It's one of those things, Joel, that You could probably get one that's cheaper, but is it going to last? This is hopefully be something that can be with me for the rest of my life if I live to be 80 years old. But yes, they're not cheap. It's heavy. It's like 70 pounds. So, but I think it's worth it. It's, Blaze says, now your neighbors are really going to love you. Well, it has headphones and everything. I can play without anybody hearing. So, Blaze, but yeah, but I can see where you're going with that. In fact, that's one of the reasons that I had a piano, acoustic piano down in Madeira Beach. Can't put headphones for that. And so I was never really able to play it. And then I sold it. Could never have put it in here. And of course, acoustic pianos do not hold their value at all. So I wanted to get the latest and greatest to make sure that for years to come, that it'll still be, adequate. And it has fantastic piano settings on it, organ settings on it, going back to Hammond organs from the 60s and 70s, like what Deep Purple used. It's just crazy. The technology is just insane. So, but it has headphones, so I can play and nobody else will be hearing it but me. Thank you. Charlotte. Okay, great. BA says Rick Wakeman edition. I know who Rick Wakeman is from Yes, BA. I know who Rick Wakeman is. A little bit of roundabout. I know what you're talking about. I feel you. So there you go. And then also, somebody's going to start thinking that I'm a musician. I actually got a guitar today, and it's way cheaper than the keyboard. I got an entry-level electric guitar that got here today. So I'm going to be doing Unfound, going to be playing disc golf, and going to be learning some music. I'm self-taught on the guitar just a little bit, but this is my first electric guitar. So we'll see how that goes. And I the guitar, the amp, the strap, the picks, and everything for like $300. It's like an entry level guitar and everything, just enough to start picking that up. And I have an acoustic guitar that maybe you've seen in the background once in a while. So just within the last week, it all seemed to come together. On Screaming Notes, I have an acoustic Ibanez, but no, this is a Squier, which is like Fender, a cheap Fender Stratocaster is what it is. Screaming that came today, along with a Fender amp. The amp, I think, is much higher quality than the guitar is. We'll just have to see. But I was not going to... I can get into... I can spend more money on the keyboard because I'm an accomplished piano player. And I know probably it's going to come back to me fairly quickly. So I need to have something that is up to my abilities. So I need 88 keys, etc. Whereas with the guitar, I may have a doctorate in piano, but I'm in first grade when it comes to guitar. So I'm not going to spend a lot of money on something that I'm just entry level at. And I have a long way to go. So that's the reason that like the keyboard was up here and the guitar is down here. That's the reason. If it was the opposite, if I was an accomplished guitar player, then it probably would have been switched. But that's just how it worked out. Thank you, Marlene. My weight loss, I haven't even talked about that. My daughter plays the trumpet. My mother played the trumpet, Eileen. Plays basketball and dribbles outside for 40 minutes a day. Good for her. Good. Smoke in the Water. Used to play Smoke in the Water back in the 80s in a band I was in, Blaze, for sure. Yeah, the hair. Thank you, Jody. Melissa says Les Paul electric. It's not a Les Paul. Les Paul is a Gibson. Melissa, this is a Fender But Gibsons and Fenders are probably the most popular. It's in the other room. I didn't bring it over. Those are the two most popular brands of electric guitars. Of course, there are Ibanez's and Jacksons and Deans, and they're all pretty much based on the Gibson Fender designs that can go back to the 50s and 60s pretty much. So, but this is a Fender. I just like the look of it a little bit better. But to me, once again, as an entry-level guitar player, I know some really technical guitars. Well, the Gibson sounds different than the Fender, and you want to have these kind of pickups on the electric guitars and everything. And I am so far away from that. I just want to get something that was, I looked it up, decent quality, something that I can start to mess around with a little bit without having to worry about breaking it should something happen. So my buddy Brad, though, has a Les Paul Gibson, but mine is a Fender. And if I were to put them side by side, you would be able to look the difference. Joel says, I love guitar. Recently bought a multi-scale 8-string. Wow. Music is incredible. Squires are great little guitars, though. That's what I got. Looked at some entry levels, and that seemed to be best, Joel. Just watching some people reviews on YouTube, reading some reviews, blogs, and everything. So, and thank you for the contribution, Joel. You're very generous. So what Joel did there is super chat. So if you'd like to contribute monetarily to Unfound while you're watching this evening, we would greatly appreciate it. Just hit that little square at the bottom with the gray square with the $sign in the middle. And you can do that. Twinkle says, I played the flute, clarinet, pick. Well, look at you, Twinkle. I was just piano, and that was it. Flying V, BA, maybe somewhere down the road, but I'm going to have to get way better than I am right now. This is, once again, very entry level, whereas with the piano, the keyboard, totally different. I won 2 talent shows in college at Grove City while I was there. And I wasn't even they have a music program there, and I beat all of the music majors in the school talent show way back in 1989 and 1990 as a freshman. I beat senior music majors on the piano. That's how good I was at one time. I don't know if I'll ever get back to that skill, but my mother pushed me. She had me practicing 2 hours a day. You can't help but get good when you're being forced to practice 2 hours a day. All right, one more thing. Yes, my diet. I'm down to 181 pounds. Some of you have said that you can see it in my face. I don't know about my face, but I can certainly see other places where I can tell. And feeling great. And there's something to be said about not eating carbs and not eating sugar. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists about all this stuff, about what they put in our food and everything else. That I eat chicken wings. I would not say that I have the greatest diet. I don't have a bad diet, but certainly my diet is better now. But even when I was eating anything, I would not say that my diet was horrible. But I got to tell you, I know I'm going to sound like a total kook on this, but not eating sugar and not eating carbs certainly changes the way you feel. All right. I don't know what it is. I've been doing this for a month, and it seems like I'm a clear thinker anyway. I mean, you listen to the episodes and everything, but it does seem like my brain is just working a little faster now. I hate to be a kook like that or something, but, I've read things about this stuff, and I'm here to tell you, since I stopped eating carbs and sugar about 6 weeks ago, I can definitely tell you, it seems like my brain is just a little quicker. I don't know what it is. It may be the reason that I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back into playing the piano again. You know what? I'm going to get a guitar. I'm going to play. It's just like it's like I have all this increased energy up in my head. I don't know if it's just a coincidence now that I'm not eating certain things and I've lost some weight and all of that. But I think I could be convinced. I think I could be convinced that there's something going on there, that it just seems like I have more energy, and I don't know, it's just something weird. And as all of you know, I don't do drugs, never done drugs, nothing of that stuff. It's just changing the diet just a little bit. I don't know. It just seems like, no, I can't explain it. It just seems like there's less, the mind is just a little quicker. The synapses are just firing off a little faster, like a millisecond faster. And that may be the reason I'm all hyped up about playing the piano again and everything. I think that's part of it. I can't resist that, to think that. So if any of you are thinking about going on a diet, losing some weight and everything, here's my recommendation. No sugar, no carbs. Limit your calorie intake to about 1,700 calories a day. That's my recommendation. Something as simple as that. It's not easy, but it's simple. Anna, thank you for the contribution through Super Chat. And thank you for the nice words. Appreciating everything that we do. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You're very generous. Melissa says, when I eat low carbs, I'm less tired and think more clearly. That's the way I feel, Melissa. Puma says, absolutely stick with it. Sugar is poison. I'm even developing a taste for dark chocolate, which is something I could have never imagined even just a couple months ago. I'm eating it instead of regular chocolate now, and I'm actually liking it. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Coffee says, what fruits are you still eating? Not many. Grapes, raspberries, and pineapple. That's about it, because a lot of fruits have carbs in them. I'm not zero carbs, but a lot less carbs. I'm still eating cereal, which have carbs in them, but and I know certain fruits have carbs in them, but it's not zero carbs, but it's a lot less carbs. And certainly, though, the sugar, except for natural sugar in fruits, no sugar. None. Zero. So those are the fruits that I'm still eating. Okay, let's move on. So a lot of personal stuff going on. Though I've talked about in the first 45 minutes, and I guess Larry doesn't like that, but it seems that many of you do, asking me questions and things, which I'm happy to answer. We did sugar for almost 10 years at my house. Kids are super healthy. Sure, good for you. Sugar was a staple in my house growing up. Sugar was like water in the Densel house. The way my mother used to bake pies and cookies and everything, it was a staple. I really do not know how at the age of 50, how I wasn't like, 350 pounds when I was a kid is beyond me, because the way my mother, my grandmother, my mother, made all these sweets and everything. It's crazy. All right. So that's my idea regarding a diet. Let's move on to true crime information. I'm going to take, of course, a couple questions, one of which is at least out of the true crime genre, but maybe Larry will now be happy that we're getting to the what you might call the meat of the program. The update episode, of course, this Friday. I apologize for all of you lying to you that I told you I don't know how long it's going to be, and then it comes off at 4 hours. Of course, a little bit of that was that I decided to include all of the unfound nows, which there are 10 of them now. And I want to thank my assistant, Cherie, who is also the moderator for the live show, of suggesting that maybe you should do an update for all of the unfound nows. And I was like, man, that's a great idea. Thank you, Cherie. So that, of course, maybe made it about, I don't know, a half hour longer. But it still would have been over 3 hours. But it was good to include those. And it wasn't until I included them that I realized that the first 5 that were done, the remains have been found. Of course, at least in one of those, Linda Stoltzfus's, somebody's been charged with a murder. But then the second 5, starting with Alan Smith from Texas, those are still all unsolved. Nobody's been found yet. So it's interesting how that broke down. I did not even realize that until I started looking at those and seeing what the updates were. And as I think I said, with the Corey Dale Moore disappearance from North Carolina, I did not even realize that his remains had been found until just days before I did the update episode. So the first 5, Linda Stoltzfus, Erica Lloyd, Mary Lane Carter, Stephanie Hollingsworth, Corey Dale Moore. Man, I could do this off the top of my head. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if I could do that if my mind was still on carbs and sugar. But those 5, the remains have been found. Linda's, of course, just within the last week and a half. So the next update episode will be the end of August. And I anticipate that one's going to be long because we're going to have some trials to talk about. And who knows what's going to go. We're going to have maybe a grand jury in the Tom Brown case. We're going to have a lot, I think, to talk about come the end of August. So who knows how long that one will be. Watch, it's going to be really long, and that's only going to be 2 hours. It's going to be exactly the opposite. We'll just have to see. But, I don't know how many other programs do update episodes. I think they should. And I know all of you like them. You want to know what's going on. And I guess from a talking standpoint, it's a lot more work for me. But every 3 months, I can surely handle that. I think I prefer the episodes where I just do a little bit of talking and just do the interviewing. So, but the update episodes are important, and we'll keep doing them every 3 months. Next one in August, and then after that in December, every 4 months, which seems to be a good time frame to do them. Now, you should know I did not write a Patreon blog, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. By the way, we did have a think tank regarding the update episode. I just picked out some of the updates and we talked about them and we had a nice discussion for about an hour and a half. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast if you'd like to support the program and get in on the blogs and some ebooks and the think tank and Unfound on the Ground and everything else. Once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. As you know, this program, Unfound, has no ads in it. It will never have any ads in it. So the way we get compensation for this program is through other means. And so that's why I keep bringing up paypal.me/Unfound Podcast. And that's also why I mention Patreon. But the episodes themselves every Friday are always going to be ad-free, even though I know YouTube puts ads in these videos, at least when they're new. Moving on to the blog, though, that I wrote about the update episode. Given that the kind of the theme for the update episode was light at the end of the tunnel, speaking about COVID-19, and then comparing that to the disappearances that we've covered, I asked the question, what's it going to take for us to see the light at the end of the tunnel for disappearances? And so I broke that blog down into investigations. So investigating disappearances that just happened, and then investigating disappearances that have been unsolved for a long time. I talk about that. That's one way that we're going to see light at the end of the tunnel, getting better at investigations and all those things that it's going to take. I wrote about that. And then the other part I wrote about is prevention. How do we stop disappearances from happening in the first place? And so that was the other section of that blog. It was over 3,000 words. And once again, if that's a topic among many others that I write about on the blog at Patreon, please check that out. That at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Screaming says the less sugar you consume, the more sweet it tastes when you eventually do have some. I think I knew that, Screaming. That sounds sensible. I'm eating a good chicken sandwich right now. I love chocolate. Well, see, I can't eat bread. Bread has carbs in it, Marlene. That's why I can't eat pizza anymore either. So I can eat meat, and I've been doing a lot of that. And been eating vegetables and dark chocolate and chicken and grapes and peanut butter, things like that. But yeah, carbs, any, breads, grains, off limits. Once again, though, I've been eating Cheerio cereal, but that's as close as I think I'm ever going to get to no carbs. I'm going to talk about that, Marlene. Thank you. Kathy says, Screaming, that's true, but all chocolate has sugar in it except for unsweetened baking chocolate, which is horrible. Yeah, well, that's why I'm kind of limited it to dark chocolate. Doesn't, of course, dark chocolate does have a little bit of a bitter taste to it, but you kind of can get used to it. Thank you, Marlene. Yeah, all of you. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to answer a question, though, right now, though. And this comes from, first question is from Jamie. Not sure if she is in here tonight or not. Jamie wrote just before the show started, have you covered any cases from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or Vermont? I have listened to every episode on iTunes and cannot remember if you've covered any cases in those states. Thank you. As I told her, the answer is no. We have not covered any disappearances in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or Vermont. That is not by the plan. We are not trying to avoid. You would think that over 200 episodes that we would have hit every state by this time. We haven't. And in fact, just with Unfound Now, with the most recent Unfound Now that we did with Mark Piniella, that's the first time we went to Hawaii. These things aren't planned. This is just the way it's worked out. We've covered way more disappearances in Arkansas than we have in any of the New England states. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. It's there's certainly nothing on my part or Emily's or Cherie's or any other assistant's part that we're avoiding those states. Of course, we've covered a few in New Jersey. We've gone to New York. So, Jamie, all I can tell you, it's just been a weird statistical quirk. And I would certainly love to cover eventually all 50 states and maybe even get them all done before the end of this year. But once again, we are limited to the people that we can reach. I think another factor, Jamie, is that, those upper northeastern states, they don't have a lot of people in them. You look at, for example, how many representatives they have in Congress or how many electoral votes. It's no wonder that, there's some of the lesser populated states. So there's not going to be as many disappearances in those. And so it's going to be harder to cover them. There's just fewer people to contact. So that is certainly a factor. Whereas we've covered a lot of disappearances in California, that makes sense. Texas, that makes sense. Florida, that makes sense. And some other states with a lot of people in them. So, we are not biased against people from the Northeast, just because they may all be New England Patriot fans. It's just something I can't explain it. I can tell you for sure that if families from those three states were to contact me and any of my assistants tomorrow, they would get we'd want to talk to all of them as soon as possible. All right. This is not anything other than just some weird statistical thing that I just can't answer. So, but thank you for bringing it up. It's an excellent question. I don't mind answering it. And I guess it's something that we failed at. And we're just going to have to do better. I would certainly like to have all 50 states represented. We've even covered a disappearance in the District of Columbia, Unique Harris. So, we've gone to Montana, we've gone to Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, North Dakota, but I don't think South Dakota. So there's another state that we've not covered. We eventually finally did a disappearance in Maryland. Patty Dudek, we did a disappearance in Delaware, finally Ben Archer. So those were a couple states that we had not covered until recently. So we're narrowing it down, but I think Maine is another state where I don't think that we've covered a disappearance yet either. I don't know. If I had an answer for you, I'd tell you. But you're right. All right. Let's see here. Hello, Deborah. What's going on? Cauliflower. Not a huge cauliflower fan, Eileen. I'm more of a broccoli guy, but yes. Deborah says Australia has plenty of places for people to go missing. Very vast, a lot of nothing. Never been there, Deborah, but that's my impression. I have nothing against covering disappearances in other countries. Just a matter of talking to the people and being able to identify with them and making sure I understand. It's easy for me to cover disappearances in the United States because I think I understand the culture, even though each state can be a little different. Going to another country, I want to make sure I cover it the right way and need to understand what the standards are and what law enforcement's attitude is and laws and things like that. But certainly I'd love to cover some disappearances. I know that Louise has brought from the UK. She's brought up a couple. Ireland, Trevor Dealey, for example. We've covered a few in Canada. So, I'd like to do that if we can make it happen. Sheree says we've reached out to some people that weren't interested. That happens quite a bit. Yeah, I'm not sure the listeners realize that it very well may be Jamie, that we've reached out to people in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and they just haven't gotten back to us. That's certainly a possibility, although I can't think of that right off the top of my head, but it's probably happened in the last 4.5 years. Of course, I'm sure a lot of programs that cover true crime have covered a disappearance from Massachusetts / New Hampshire, because Maura Murray's disappearance would surely fall into that category. She's from Massachusetts. Her car is found in New Hampshire, and so that covers both of them. But we, of course, have not covered that disappearance yet. Marlene's talking about her habits. Try eating Special K. I eat that. I eat dark chocolate. Deborah says she's from California, but now live in Australia. That's a big change, Deborah. Linda, you ever think it's strange the families don't want to do an interview to find their missing people? I don't try to judge them, Linda. I think it's in their best interest, but I'm not in their shoes. We are a service, and they can either take advantage of that service and come on the program, or they can't. And they all have different reasons that they would choose to say no. And, but for the people who are interested in doing that, getting the word out, having our help, me being a contact for them, being able to help them out behind the scenes, of course, for free, then we're happy to do that. But, I certainly don't get mad when people say no. I get way more ticked off when people are claim they're going to do an interview, and we've done all this work and everything, and we schedule time to do the interview, and then they just vanish. Not, figuratively, of course. That happens. Hasn't happened recently, luckily, but it does happen. That upsets me more than people who just outright say no from the beginning. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for the compliment. The way I try to conduct the program is I try to ask the questions that I think all of you would if you were in my shoes. If you had a chance to talk to the guest, what would you be asking that guest? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to read all of your minds and think, what would they ask? And that's what I'm trying to do. I just listened to one where the family said they were threatened. Can't remember which person. What is your thought on that? That happens, Linda. I don't think it happens as much as we think, but it does happen. And Cherie's right. A lot of people don't want to do interviews because they've been scammed in the past. They've done interviews, and then when the episode comes out, the programs comes out, it's not very good. Their words are twisted this way. Their words are twisted that way. Cherie's absolutely correct. That's another reason that they don't want to talk anymore. Coffee says, if I understand correctly, the police discourage families from speaking out about their missing persons cases. It happens more than I'd like to admit, but it does happen. That is a thing, for sure. Karen says, if you ever become a consultant for, say, the police force, would you charge for your services? I would charge the police. I'd never charge any families, but I would certainly charge the police. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is all part of the overall plan, Karen, that the goal is to become a paid speaker on missing persons cases, going to schools, speaking to future criminal justice majors, future law enforcement officers, people who may work for Secret Service, the FBI, state police, etc., going to schools and coming in and teaching them about missing persons cases. That's the ultimate goal, along with a few other ones. That's how I look at it. I know a lot of other true crime hosts, they're thinking about TV shows and things like that. And that I'll entertain any idea that comes to me regarding that. But that's really not what I think about first. That's not what comes to my mind first about where all of this needs to go. So, that's my answer to that. So there you go, Jamie. Let's go back to this. So I talked about the blog, talked about the update episode, books. People have been asking me about books. This is one of those things that I think once again goes along with my mind. It seems kind of being freed up, that I got in contact, although I don't think she's gotten back to me yet. Let me see if she's gotten back to me yet. I sent an email to a woman who I have known for over 10 years. And when I was writing novels, she was my editor. And she is in the book, I guess you could say, the book business. And so I contacted her today. She's not gotten me back to me yet, but we're going to start a conversation about getting all of these episodes, all these disappearances into a book series. Of course, I started doing that myself back in 2017. But so much has changed since then. There was no live show. There was no think tank. There was no blog that I write, 3,000 words a week. There was no newsletter that I write 4,000 words a month. We just do. I just personally do a lot more now than I did when those books first got started. Like I said, back in 2017, I just don't have the time. I would have the time if I never wanted to leave my condo and ordered food in and never, stopped doing all these few other things that I do, like playing disc golf, maybe, of course, playing a little keyboard, playing some guitar, going to trivia. If I wanted to stop all that stuff, then I maybe have time to get to the books, but I have to start weighing all of that, and I have to then start worrying about burnout. And so the books are something that have gotten put on the back burner because of all these other things now that are accepted parts of Unfound. Once again, this live show, the think tank, the blog, the newsletter, all of these things. And then on top of that, the episodes. And it's just tough to find time to do everything and do them well. You can do a lot, but how good is each thing going to be? So I think what I'm going to end up doing is probably getting somebody or to get the books done for Unfound. It's probably of course, there's going to be a cost, but I think I'm ready to endure that cost, at least catch everything up to the present. So I'm going to be, hopefully within the next few days, be talking to her, give her opinions, because once again, she understands this stuff a lot more than I do about the book business and getting these things done. On top of that, I think that I've gotten to the point with the program where it should not be crazy for me to expect to be able to get some sort of literary agent. Unfound is now a decently known podcast. It's been out for 4.5 years, almost 250 episodes. Of course, it got featured on 48 Hours recently, although that was a surprise and unpermitted. Do those interviews with Dr. Telesco once a month. I've had some offers for TV stuff over the last few years, although nothing's happened there. I think it should not be crazy that I should be able to get a literary agent that specializes in true crime books, nonfiction books, and maybe something that can happen from there that maybe some publisher will take on putting all these disappearances into a series of books instead of me doing this myself, even though I think that those books were good. I think they're high quality. I think anybody that's ever gotten a print edition of them, you look at them and say, man, this is really high quality. They are. But obviously, because they're high quality, they take a lot of work. And it's just time that I just don't have now. And I want to do them. I think it's very, very important that they get done. So that is going to be a concentration. It's going to start with this, like I said, this woman who I've known for 10 years, like her a lot. She certainly helped me back when I was writing my novels and increasing my ability as a writer, a fiction writer. She's a great editor. We work well together, but she works in the book business, and I'm hoping we have, she can give me some pointers and some ideas of what can be done. So I'll let you know how that goes. In fact, I just emailed her on Messenger today. It's just hard to believe we've known each other for over 10 years now. It just seems like yesterday that we were introduced. So I think the books are going to get done. I just don't think I will be the one who is doing them. And so it'll be up to somebody else to get the transcriptions done and put them into a form. I will, of course, get approval on the final product, what it looks like and everything. But that is the plan right now. So hoping that's going to go well. Some of you are saying, Charlotte, what is so terrible to me is when law enforcement knows that the person might be on someone's property, but the owner won't let anyone search for the property. Those are the laws, Charlotte. Just have to live by them. Charlotte, sometimes it is not the suspect's property and the owner still won't let anybody search it. That's what happened in Crystal Morrison's disappearance, Charlotte, but that's the law. What you can do. I've seen some cases where the family has been threatened by law enforcement not to go searching on someone's private property. Well, yeah. You don't want people going unlawfully onto somebody's property. That's how people get shot. And we don't need that. We already have enough problems with disappearances as it is. Screaming, so much work and play, not enough time. That can happen, Screaming. I don't want to burn out. I'm not burnt out, and I don't want to become burnt out. Fishing was blocked for some reason. I don't know, Fishing. Surely Cherie did not block you, so I don't know what to tell you regarding that. I know I mistyped because I didn't have my glasses on. I deleted it. Okay, I'm gone. Gee, I don't know, Fishing. I don't see any reason that you should have been blocked. I don't know what to say about that. Maybe Cherie has a better understanding of that. All right, some of you have already posted about it. I'm just going to talk about it. I just want to remind you before I get into this, I'm not an expert in the disappearance of Suzanne Morphew. I've followed this, I think, just generally. I think my assistants have followed this much more closely than I have, but hello, Jill. I just want to make some comments. As some of you have already stated, Barry Morphew, I I think it's Morphew, got charged today with his wife's murder, even though her remains, to my knowledge, have still not been found. Just to remind all of you, this happened almost a year ago, May 10th of 2020. And he claimed that he was in Denver. It appears that she had gone for a bike ride on Mother's Day, and that at some point, it seems somebody had attacked her and then thrown this bike into the brush, into the woods, something like that. And she has been never seen again. But from early on, a lot of attention had been put on her husband, Barry. It seems to me that a lot of people have been suspicious of him since day one. Even though he claimed that he was in Denver, which was many, many miles away, an hour and a half away, or whatever it is, certainly not close to, where they lived and where Suzanne was riding her bike. As most of you know who have followed Unfound for a while, this is a very common scenario. And if they charged him, of course, innocent until proven guilty, but unfortunately, what's the problem for Barry is that this is a very common scenario in disappearances, that woman just happens to disappear while the guy is out of town. This is common. It's almost the same thing as when the guy is in town and the guy gets up one day. Yeah, my wife's gone. Her car is here. Her phone's here. Her purse there. His clothes here. But she's gone, and I just don't know what happened. And we all know what we think of that. This is that kind of disappearance. It's not to say that women don't get attacked on bikes. They do. That women don't get abducted when they go jogging. They do. When they go for a walk, they do. These things happen. But what are the odds that it happens just when this guy happens to be out of town? I think that's, and then there was, I know, stories about his coworkers said he smelled of chlorine when he was staying at this motel, and there were hours where he couldn't have been accounted. He wasn't accounted for, even though he said that he was in Denver, and was not in the area where his wife disappeared. So I guess it eventually all just added up to them deciding that he needed to be charged. I'm just hoping, as I've said in other situations like this, that they have hard facts instead of just him acting suspiciously. Now, what could those facts be? I don't know. Did they search his vehicle and find her blood in the trunk? Did they go into the house and find evidence of a struggle, even though it looks like somebody, she was out on her bike when this happened? Is there evidence that something happened at the home? I can be open to that as well. I'll tell you what got me about this is that even if he had work in Denver, what kind of guy is out of town for Mother's Day? I know that seems like maybe, I don't know if it's innocuous, but it seems to me that people have glossed over that. But that's what kind of caught my attention regarding all of this from day one. That, it's Mother's Day, and she's home alone. And granted, I as you know, I'm a bachelor, but I have dated women who have been mothers, and even though it's Mother's Day, husbands are usually still around for that day, and of course, taking care, treating their wife who may be a mother to their children, and of course, the Morphews had it. I think a couple daughters. And he's out of town on Mother's Day. If he was a truck driver or something like that, I guess maybe I get it, but he's not. And Are we really saying that he couldn't get out of that work just to be back there and them have a nice get together on Mother's Day and go to dinner? He couldn't get out of that. It's just, it just seemed to me something that from the beginning didn't quite ring very true to me. And maybe that's, it's just circumstantial. That's not anything you could ever, hang your hat on as a prosecutor. But it certainly got my attention. I think I continued to keep my mind open. Shri, once again, Shri is talking to fishing. Shri, he was never out of town. That was confirmed early on. He said he was at a training event, but the supervisor said, right, not confirmed. Like I said, hours where there's no idea where he was. He was sleeping when he left to go out of town for work. No one saw her on her bike. Nobody saw that. They have blood evidence. Can't give away my sources. Trust me, it's going to be clear soon. I hope so. He has a backhoe, so could have used that. Sure. Shri says he was at a training for the fire department. Fire marshal said no training. There you go. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but it just never really rang true to me that a guy who is married would be out of town on Mother's Day. I think what this means, if he did kill her, is that probably, as we talk about so many times, if you want to try to apply this to Unfound's disappearances that we've covered like this, Angela Green, Rosemary Rapp, that I'm inclined to believe that these are domestic violence situations that went that next step to death. I don't know what kind of marriage they have. Was he abusive? There's probably news, but once again, I am not an expert on this. But given what has gone on since then and him having this saying that he was at training, there was no training, doesn't even have a firm alibi, etc. It sounds like something that was spur of the moment, something that went that too far. Went too far. Of course, domestic violence just on its own, too far. But when I mean too far, something that cannot be taken back. Death can't be taken back. So we'll see if they can, of course, the tough part is, can they track her remains down? She could be anywhere between their house and Denver, anywhere in between. I just don't know. I'll have you know, as you're probably seeing here with Sheree, my assistants, of course, have suspected Barry since day one. I have to admit I was a little more open-minded, but I was open to more possibilities, which looks like I'm going to be wrong. I can live with that. But the whole thing about the guy being out of town for Mother's Day just never quite rang true to me. But I know all of you are going to be following it. I think you should. But as you do so, I want you to be listening to it and examining it, but also think about those unfound disappearances that are similar to it. Why is it that Barry is getting charged with murder, but all of these other guys are still walking around free? Men have never been charged with anything. This is how you begin to compare and contrast, see the differences, become good analysts, and figure out what these other cases where men haven't been charged, what needs to happen to get to the point that now they're charging Barry. What needs to be happen in these other cases where those men get to the level where they get charged too. I would like you to try to do that if you could. Joyce says, who leaves to go out of town and doesn't wake the wife to say goodbye? Marlene says, imagine such a liar. Deborah, Barry's not talking at his lawyer's advice, of course. Barry has a lot of access to tools. Melissa says she got kicked out too. I don't know what to tell you, Melissa. Yes. So Barry Morphew charged today, and I think a lot of people suspected him anyway. So I think the only surprise here is that he finally got charged. I don't think him getting charged is not a surprise. That the charge happened, I think, is the surprise. But Sheree's saying that she has a source that says there's going to be evidence coming out that's really going to be able to connect him to her disappearance. So we'll be waiting for that. So Cherie, thank you. You must have the inside line on there somewhere, of which I don't know what that is, and that's fine. So another thing I would say, that if Barry did this and he did plant that bike, he probably should have just left it the way it was. He probably shouldn't have put that bike out there. To me, that given that we're now to believe that this was staged, he shouldn't have done that. A little too Columbo-ish, a little too fiction writing there, that it's just a little too convenient that the bike is found and all of that. In retrospect, if Barry staged all of this, he should have left the bike out of it. It kind of reeked of a little bit of a setup. Charlotte says, Maya Miletti's case is kind of like that too in California. Well, Charlotte, I think that probably, the way I understand, it's a little more obvious than Suzanne's. But yeah, Blaze, he's a hunter. I think he chopped her up and put her bones in bear caves around where wolves hang out. Let's hope not, Blaze. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's really all I have to say. Like I said, I'm not an expert on it. My point regarding all of it is that this is similar to a lot of Unfound's disappearances that are still unsolved, with men that haven't been charged. And as you follow Suzanne's case, it's probably going to go to trial. Go back and listen to those disappearances that are like Suzanne's disappearance to compare and contrast. That's a good way to learn things. Let's move on to this. The newsletter, you probably got it on, if you're on the list, this past Saturday, a little shorter, simply because the Q&A episode and the update episode were just recently, and a lot of the things I usually write about were in those episodes. So the newsletter, a little short, 2,300 words or something, but I'm guessing that the June one will be back to that length of around 4,000 words. I'm guessing I will certainly have some things to write about a month from now. But if you're not on the list, if you didn't get your newsletter, contact me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Shree says that Barry should have left the mountain lion out of it too. Yeah, certainly. Okay. Let's move on to this. This happened since the update episode, and it has to do with Kaylene Ohling's disappearance. I remember just, 2 months ago now, we covered her disappearance in Pittsburgh. The young woman involved with a much older man. She went out to meet him, and then she disappeared. Well, that guy, Michael Mano, I'm just going to read the article for you. A Penn man is accused of sending an explicit photograph of a missing woman to her family members. Michael Mano, 46, is charged with corruption of minors and other offenses. According to court paperwork and accounts from the victim's family, Mano sent an exposed selfie of his ex-girlfriend, Kaylene Ohling, who is missing, to the woman's 17-year-old sister. This comes from the WPXI.com website in Pittsburgh. The photograph that led to Mano's arrest was sent via Facebook, according to court documents. Loved ones believe it was taken prior to Ohling's disappearance. Her uncle, Paul Young, told Channel 11 that Mano had previously sent explicit images to Ohling's father as well. And that did not come up in the interview. We probably wouldn't have talked about that anyway. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and it shows the caliber of person that he is, Young said. The whole thing is horrible for our whole family, most importantly her parents and her siblings, because this is like a taunt. Channel 11 visited Mano's Penn Hills address on Monday, but no one came to the door. At publishing time, an attorney was not listed for him, and he had not posted bail. Young said his family is desperate for answers into her disappearance. County police previously confirmed to Channel 11 that investigators had suspects, but they would not identify those individuals, I guess, concerning the disappearance. So the hits just keep on coming for Michael Mano. I don't think there's much doubt as to who's responsible for Kaylene's disappearance. The question is, where are her remains? There is, unfortunately, I don't think there's much of a chance that she's still alive. And it's very sad. And this just is piled on top of everything else. Michael Mano. No. What can you say? But this is something that happened that I got after the update episode came out. I surely would have included this in the update episode, but so this is new information. I don't know. How did Kaylene get mixed up with this guy? It's bad. Michael Mano, surely one of the worst people that we've ever talked about on the program. No doubt about it. And we've talked about some doozies, but he would surely be in the top 5 worst suspects that that we've talked about on the program in 200 disappearances. That's saying something, given how many bad people we've mentioned, their full names and everything. He's certainly in the top 5, up there with David Perry and some others. So you're all reacting to that. It's disgusting. It's awful. What a creep. Hello, Heather. Good to see you, Heather. Happy belated birthday to Heather. Shree says, how has somebody not beat his butt by now? Sorry, I know that's not PG, but I can't with this dude. Yeah, he definitely has the attitude of a guy that's never had his butt kicked, Shree. As a guy, yeah, that's pretty obvious, but he is horrible. So that is an update on Kaylene Ohling's disappearance. Michael Mano does not seem like the type who's ever going to fess up to anything. He's not going to reveal where Kaylene's remains are. He is hardcore, I think, and it's going to be up to the Ohling family, hopefully with the help of Pittsburgh police, to figure out where Kaylene was put after she saw Michael that night. Yeah, so there you go. That's the story regarding the update for Kaylene Ohling. He's out there, had pictures of, I guess this is the thing in the 21st century with the technology that we have now, sending X-rated photos to boyfriends, girlfriends, etc. And she did that, or maybe she did it right in his presence, and he had those pictures, and now he's sending it to her 17-year-old younger sister. One of the most disgusting stories I've heard since Unfound has got started. Okay. Let's move on to this. Marlene, I know who is in here. She asked me a long question. But I'm going to answer it right now. Hi, Ed. I always have a lot of questions I love to ask. I do have a question now that I'm thinking of it. It's been in the back of my mind. Did anything ever pan out on that call that Tammy Arthur made to Tom about Chad and all their belongings being taken by the cartel? Do you still keep in touch with her mom? She mentioned they moved to Florida last year. I have not spoken to anybody in Chad or Tammy's families recently, Marlene. I do remember that. And Marlene, I just have to tell you, and I just have to be totally honest about this. I think that I don't believe that story. This goes along with the idea that they were on a cruise and all of that. I don't think any of that happened. I think that they were involved in some shady stuff and eventually paid the price for that. So I don't think anything came from that call, because there was nothing to come from that call, because I think it was a lie. I think it was. And but once again, I've not talked to anybody in either of their families recently, but you know me, I ask the questions. I try to ask the hardest hitting questions, but I realized there were some things that done in that interview, and I even think that the families know that those stories probably aren't true. But that's what they were saying. So I've not been in touch recently. She mentioned they moved to Florida last year. I think I remember that. Blaze says something always sounded off with what she told her mom. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think there were a lot of lies going on there in those days before they went missing. Uh, Giving reasons that they're here, giving reasons that they're there. And I don't think those were the real reasons. So I get that they were in over their head in something, but I don't think they had this stuff taken from them or anything. I think that, unfortunately, I don't believe that either of them are alive now. And it probably does have to do with what they were doing. But all this stuff, their belongings being taken by a cartel and all of that. If a cartel is going to do anything, it's just going to outright kill people. And that might have been what happened here. But, taking their belongings and not doing anything to them seems, I got to be honest, seems a little lightweight for a cartel. The way I understand drug cartels, it seems a little too PG rated, being the tree just brought that up, PG. That's not enough R rated or X rated for a cartel, just taking somebody's possessions. So nothing has come of that, Marlene, simply because I don't think there's anything to come of it, because I don't think it's true. So it very well may be that Chad and Tammy were taken to Mexico, whether alive or deceased, but I don't think it had anything to do with their belongings and anything like that. All right, going back up to some items that I want to talk about. I've got about a half hour left. Going to have to go through this. Once again, this is an update that's just since the update episode. Sometimes this is the way things happen. Troy Galloway. I was sent this by a listener, and then his mother, Nancy, who's been fighting some health issues. I think she's going to be fine, but she's fighting some health issues. She verified it with me. After all this time, of course, Troy Galloway's disappearance is not that old. This is a disappearance I think we covered in 2018. I think it happened in 2016, maybe. They're going to finally drain the lake right where he lived. This Lake Crystal in the Sonora, California area. I just did just a couple months ago, I did a map analysis of Troy's disappearance that's on this channel. So you want to check that out so you can see the lake that I'm talking about. And the sheriff's office issued a statement on their Facebook page on Saturday, the day after the update episode came out, that they've gotten permission from the HOA or whoever it is to drain that lake, because they believe there is evidence in that lake that will help them in the investigation into what happened to Troy Galloway. It's curious. I have to tell you, I was really surprised by this, because surely if Troy had gone into that lake, the lake is not that big. It's like 200 feet by like 300 feet. I don't know how deep it is. I'm not even sure that matters. If he went into the lake that night by himself, his remains would have been found very quickly, because I know that the lake was looked around. I don't know if I don't remember if they sent divers out there. Did they get in boats? I don't know. I don't specifically remember. But either way, the lake is not that big. A 200 feet is not that large. It's not that long. That's shorter than a disc golf bat hole. 200 by 300 feet, it's not that big of a lake. If he was in it, he would have been found by now. So I don't know what evidence they think that they're going to find. Do they think that somebody threw a gun into the lake? Do they think that somebody threw a knife into the lake that could have something to do with Troy's disappearance? Do they think that somebody killed Troy and weighted him down and he's at the bottom of the lake? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. It just seems odd to me that this is now happening, that they just came out. Once again, this is not some rumor. This is not something that his mother told me behind the scenes. This was a statement on the sheriff's Facebook site on Saturday. So what led them to this, I don't know. Nancy doesn't know. In fact, she kind of knew about it. She was surprised that they made it public. I'm thinking the reason they made it public is because the sheriffs had to get permission from the housing authority to do this. And they figure, well, it's going to leak out that they were doing this, so we might as well just release a statement. That's my guess, that they knew somebody else was going to leak it anyway, so they just said, we're just going to have to put it out there now. But this is very surprising to me that this disappearance has gone in a lot of different directions, and now they're circling the whole way back to the lake that was right by his house at the time. And it's just hard for me to believe that they would drain the lake expecting to find his remains, unless, once again, they believe that somebody killed him and weighted him down, and it's deep enough to hide the body. I don't know how deep that lake is. It's not very big in square feet. I suppose it could be deep, but I don't know. So that's what's going on. I don't know how they're going to drain it. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know why they're doing this. I'm just surprised that this disappearance has come the whole way back to the lake that was right down the street from where Troy and his wife lived at the time. If just to remind you, Troy didn't have an addiction problem, although it seems he had kicked it for a while. On the night of his disappearance, the story goes his wife caught him doing drugs again. They had an argument. He ran off, never to be seen again. That's her story. I'm not saying that there are any facts to dispute that. But certainly Troy's mother does not believe that. And there was some circumstantial evidence maybe to believe that that story is not totally true. So, but they're going to check the lake, and they said that they have reason to believe there's evidence in there that could lead them. So all of you can start brainstorming on what that means. I've given you some choices. I don't know. I don't think I can pick one. I've just given you some choices. I don't know which one of those is the best choice. Linda's asking, did you leave a thumbs up? Thank you for reminding everybody, Linda. If you're watching, please give this video a thumbs up as you're watching. I know we're getting towards the end. Thumbs up to the video. Give this video a nice thumbs up, even though I know it did take 45 minutes for me to get to the true crime information tonight. But sometimes just have to talk about personal stuff as well. And we were having a good time with it. And that's just the way the live show is sometimes, that this show's a little bit different than the episodes. Blaze says he would have floated up unless they put him in a box and added cement. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, Blaze, is that if he went into it, if he, once again, he's high, he's stumbling around, he goes into the lake, can't swim, and dies, his remains would have been found by now. They would have been found fairly quickly. It's a lake, not a river. So I don't know. Marlene, thanks, Ed. I was thinking the same thing. The whole thing sounded like a farce to me regarding Tammy and Chad, especially the crew. So if anything did happen to them, I think that they were in over their heads. Yeah, Marlene. Okay. Let me answer this question. This is probably going to take, I don't know how much time, but Twinkle says, we like the personal conversations at the beginning. Well, thank you, Twinkle. It gives me an opportunity. I have nothing to hide. I'm a public figure. Things going on in my life, and I think we do enough serious stuff with the program, with the think tank, with the episodes themselves, and the writing that I do and everything. We're allowed to let our hair down once in a while, Twinkle, for sure. Valerie, who I know is in here, at least she was in here at the beginning. I hope she's still watching and listening. I'm going to answer your question now Valerie. Valerie asked me, what do you think of our government, of course, the American government, coming out with declassified UFO information? I don't know where everybody is on this. I've seen the news stories. I've not really gone to any forums to see how many people are believing this. And I know a lot of people just believe in UFOs anyway. And I know a lot of people make the arguments, well, the universe is so big, there has to be other life out there. I get all of it. I get it. I got to tell you, Valerie, I just think this is a big farce. Here's why. And this goes back to the videos that you can now watch on YouTube and everywhere else of these. Were they Navy pilots, not Air Force pilots, Navy pilots, naval aviators, who first saw like this little white blip or whatever it was, the pill, whatever they call it, skimming along the water, and the water being disturbed, and all of these things. And you have to remember, some of these videos are not recent. These go back to like the mid 2000s. The Tic Tac, thank you, streaming. Yes, this little white Tic Tac that's allegedly flying along the water, and it's going way faster than anybody knows and everything. What you need to pay attention to is how those naval aviators react to it. Don't pay attention to the video. Listen to how they react. These are men. They were men, but we know women, they're naval aviators as well, but these just happen to be men. These are people who are responsible for the defense of the United States. They have some of the most serious jobs you can have in our country, if not in the world. Flying those jets is dangerous. Who knows what they're ever going to run into? They are some of the most highest skilled people in the world, and they take their jobs very seriously because they have to. That is one of the qualifications. We should not just think that all of these people doing this, are like Maverick in Top Gun. These people take their jobs very seriously. And so there they were watching something that they couldn't understand, but they were not serious about it. Now, these are people who are made to be looking for dangers out there, whether it's submarines, Chinese, Russian, whoever else, submarines. We read once in a while about these incursions, bombers, Russian bombers going into Alaska airspace, into British airspace. This is what these kinds of people do. And what were those guys doing in that video as they were seeing something they couldn't understand? They were laughing at it. They were whooping it up. That tells me all I need to know. That this is not something that was serious. If they thought it was serious because they were watching something that defied physics and everything else, they would have zoomed down there in their jets, hit the afterburner, everything else. They would have gone after it and said, what the heck is this thing that is flying in our airspace? They didn't. They let it go. And if they thought that this was something serious, they would have been like, hey, what's that? Man, we got to go check that out. No, they're laughing at it. I think that this is, I think it's a combination of things. There is such a thing as hysteria. There is such a thing as UFO hysteria. There's such a thing as sickness hysteria. These things are pandemonium. These are all known phenomenons that unfortunately humans can suffer from. And I think that's what's going on here. I think that, yes, are there things that the United States government and its contractors have built that are way more sophisticated than anything we of the public have seen? Yes. Absolutely. Do I think that they go out and test those things sometimes? Yes, we now know that they did, going back to the Nighthawk, the F-117, which, could evade radars. They were doing that back in the 70s and 80s back then. And so those things are going on now. And so I think for our government, for the Department of Defense, they would much rather have people believing in UFOs and saying, oh, yeah, we just have no idea what's going on here. When they really know, you know what, it's this program. They'll gladly own up to the idea that they're UFOs to cover up some secret program that they're working on. This is no different. If you want to compare this to disappearances, we know how police don't want to talk about disappearances. And they're more than happy to mislead the public on an investigation. We could look at Zoe Campos's disappearance. I think we were led to believe they were nowhere regarding her disappearance, what Carlos Rodriguez did or didn't do, where she was, if she's dead, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden one day they're in Carlos Rodriguez's backyard digging it up and finding Zoe's remains. This is part of what law enforcement does. This is part of what government does. This is what the Department of Defense does. And this is happening all over the world. They have no responsibility. They have there's no reason for them to tell us the truth. And it's better off that we don't know the truth. That's good for us that they don't tell us, because if then we know, then other people know, then our enemies, whoever you consider those people to be in the world, then they know. Then that they are actually things that actually real, that we've designed. They have probably, unmanned, no humans inside them, they're remote, they're drones, or whatever else. And then once in a while, they may get a fighter pilot or something to, make a statement. Oh, yeah, that thing was going like Mach 6. And just create a story once in a while. That's what I think. Now, I know that that's not good press. That doesn't sell books. That doesn't, give a lot of fodder for some sensationalist podcast out there that's going to start talking about, close encounters of the third kind and everything. But, you know me, I'm not in that business. I'm not in that business. It's the same thing I always say about JFK. It seems like a new JFK assassination book comes out every year with a new angle. There are no new angles. The assassination happened on, what was it? On November 22nd, 1963, 57 years ago, 57 and a half years ago. There is no new information, but the reason that books get printed is because they get sold, not because there's anything new. It's the same way with all of this. The reason these things get happen and they get talked about and everything else by the media is because they get a lot of hits, they get a lot of likes, they get a lot of shares, because people are interested in that stuff. It's easy work for media companies. And for the Department of Defense and everything else, they have no reason to tell us the truth. And they're more than happy to let people believe in UFOs and little green aliens and everything else. Same way going back to Roswell. I'm convinced that the hysteria and everything regarding that, it was just some weather balloon or something. And then the locals start, you know what? I think it was an alien. And all of a sudden, Roswell, New Mexico becomes a tourist spot. It's a tourist attraction. Funny how those things happen. So, once again, I'm not, I don't want to sound, you don't believe there's any life on other planets and everything else. I personally do not. Okay, I just want to preface that. I do not. For my own reasons that could be based in my faith and a lot of other things. But here's what I know. There's no way that little green men, the colloquialism or cliche, are going to come from other planets and then allow, with all their technology, to be able to even come from another planet outside the solar system, flying faster than the speed of light and all of that stuff. And then they're actually going to get tracked by what would be inferior technology on an inferior technology transportation like a jet on the Earth. They're not going to let that happen. Just like if we were going to some primitive planet that was like back in the caveman days, like on Star Trek, we wouldn't allow our devices and everything to be seen by them. So, it's great. It's great news, and it creates a lot of publicity, and it gets a lot of hits on websites and everything else. But I'm telling you, there is nothing to any of this. Do I believe it's top secret information? Yes. But all I go by is how those fighter pilots taking the most serious jobs in the world, they're looking at it and laughing. So if they're going to look at it and laugh, I'm going to look at it and laugh because they surely know more about it than I do. True, there's Hope says, and this is the reason I keep listening to Ed, a rational voice in the middle of the madness. Thanks. And there's thank you for your contribution there through Super Chat. Thank you. That's just me. I hate to make these things boring for some people, but this isn't Art Bell. I know he's deceased. God rest his soul. But this isn't Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, or anything else. But most of that stuff on those kind of stuff is crap. It's like when I talk about as a kid watching In Search Of. Interesting as a 7-year-old. As an adult, I look back and it says, man, is that cheesy? And man, were they just making stuff up. But it's good TV. And it got ratings. It had multiple seasons, and Leonard Nimoy got paid, and everything else. And this rerun still runs. So that's my answer, Valerie. I would be much more worried if on that video those fighter pilots had said, "Man, what is that?" And they started chasing it and couldn't catch it, and they were afraid and they were worried, and everything else. But no, they're laughing at it. So there's that. So we're talking UFOs tonight. Okay, let me go back to one more update. And Camisha Hollis' sister, Caprice, contacted me to tell me that, once again, this is something that happened since the update episode, that Camisha's, the father of her children, Marvin Young, is going to be going on trial in Nebraska in November 2021. So we still got 6 months to that. Why it's going to take that long, I don't know. But she contacted me to tell me that. So that's a trial we'll be looking for late this year. Before that, like I said, we're going to have Austin Pivo, Janelle Matthews / Steve Pankey, the grand jury seemingly for Tom Brown, maybe Jonathan Estes' wife, Tyler North's ex-wife and her boyfriend. We're going to have a lot of things that are going to happen before we get to Marvin Young's trial for the murder of Camisha, but we're going to have a lot to talk about later this year. But once again, there's Hope. Thank you for your contribution through the Super Chat. You're very generous. And thank you for the compliment regarding how I handle these topics. One more thing, and then I will go to this Friday's episode. Did you see this story about this woman who they thought was missing, and it turned out that she just decided she was going to live off the grid? The story comes out of Salt Lake City. They do not use the woman's name, but family and friends were worried that she was deceased or had gotten lost and everything, and they sent drones out and everything, and they found that she was living in a tent in the Diamond Fork Canyon. She'd been missing for months, but they tracked her down. They went out there and they went to make sure she was okay. They actually took her to a hospital to make sure that mentally and physically she was okay. She checked out. She wasn't breaking the law. She was in an area where you're allowed to camp. And so they let her go back out there, and she's living off the land. It says here the crews had gone up into the mountains there looking several times for this woman. And the missing persons report was found, but it turns out she's just living on her own. She's just getting away from everybody. And one more reason that disappearances are so difficult. And I even have I have written as a note, and once again, you can look at this Maybe if you just Google, just put Utah woman really wasn't missing, you'll find articles written about it. I'm not going to read the entire article, being that we're getting close on the time here to 2 hours. I just put in my notes here, Sky Tosic, of course, a disappearance we just covered recently. Could it be this is what he was trying to do, but failed? Did he want to go up into the mountains of California and do what this woman is doing, and failed to do that? I think that's a possibility. I think a majority of you in the poll think that he did walk off, but maybe not, might have not been suicidal or anything, but there are people who try to do this and fail and die and are never seen again. I don't know how many of those people there are, but it seems like this woman is pulling this off, just living off the land. Charlotte says, I saw that story today. Eileen, kudos to her. I'd last 10 hours in the wild. Eileen, me too. I'm a total wimp. I got to have my electricity. Marlene says, I loved In Search Of. Eileen says, yes, the woman's story did remind me a lot of Sky. Cherie says, I posted in a discussion group. I thought it was relevant with all the national park disappearances. There you go, Cherie. Don't get me started. You're trying to trigger me, Cherie. Charlotte says, I loved In Search Of 2. Blaze, she was eating moss for 4 to 5 months all winter in the snow and everything. I can't imagine that, Blaze. Me not eating sugar and carbs is enough. I think it's Sheree says it also proves that really people do check out. Yeah, they do. And there's no law against it. All right. So if you haven't heard that story, just go to Google, do a search for Utah and woman not really missing. That should get it done. This Friday, let's talk about, we're going back to the regular format on Friday, covering the first disappearance we have in 3 weeks. The disappearance of Sandy Knipe, Canipe. This is a disappearance that is on the Charlie Project. It's on NamUs. Sandy disappeared January 16th, 2016. It was a Saturday from Shelby, North Carolina. So we're going to North Carolina. We've been there many times. And the guest is his son, Chris Knipe. And what is interesting about that is Chris is a sheriff's deputy in the same exact county where his father went missing. And it is the sheriff's department that is responsible for investigating his father's disappearance. Chris is not involved in that for obvious reasons. And in fact, Chris told me that he has although he is in law enforcement, he does not get into murders. He's not in the murder, disappearance, violent crime section. He has his responsibilities are elsewhere. But so his colleagues are the one who, of course, took the report and now are responsible for the investigation of his father's disappearance that happened over 5 years ago. So I think that's a first on Unfound for that kind of guest. The title of this episode is called A Bad Mix. And the reason this is because in the months before Sandy went missing, he had unfortunately gotten into the habit of loaning friends money. And that is the theme to start the episode, that, we love our friends, we love money. But oftentimes when we combine the two, whether we go into business with a friend, or we loan a friend money, or something, we loan them money, or whatever you want to say, money can often sour relationships very quickly. Now, it'll be up to you to determine if this was the cause of Sandy's disappearance. I think we got a couple different possibilities here. But that is why this episode is being called A Bad Mix. When you start mixing friendships and money and business, and things don't go quite as you expect. But once again, maybe that had nothing to do with his disappearance, but it makes up a large part of the conversation that I have with Chris, Sandy's son. So once again, this Friday, Sandy Knipe, Canipe, Sandy, a guy. He disappeared from Shelby, North Carolina on January 16th, 2016. He's 48 years old. His son, Chris, will be the guest, and the title is A Bad Mix. And I think that's about it. Marlene says, I did hear about the lady living in a tent. Yeah. I don't know if it made national news or not, but it caught my eye. So what did we do tonight? Talked about being beautiful here. Told my shirtless on the phone story. Talked about the women's disc golf event that I will be helping at this weekend. Unfound is a sponsor. Talked about the new keyboard. Talked about the new guitar. Talked about my diet. I've lost about 9 pounds, feeling spectacular. Talked about how I think not eating sugar and sugar and carbs has kind of freed my brain up some way. Maybe I'm just crazy. And the personal part of the program went for 45 minutes before we started talking about the update episode, the blog, the books, Suzanne Morphew, the newsletter, Kaylene Ohling, Troy Galloway update, Camisha Hollis update, this woman who went missing in Utah but isn't missing, and took some great questions from Jamie, Marlene, and Valerie and finished it up as we usually do with this Friday's episode. Next Friday's episode, the interview has already been done. The interview for the May 21st episode is going to be done tomorrow, so I'm working a little bit ahead. So we're busy here, as usual. So that's all I got. Remember to give the thumbs up to this video before you leave tonight, or if you're watching this in the rerun, please give it the thumbs up. Patreon.com/Unfound Podcast and PayPal.me/Unfound Podcast. You will hear me Friday, and those of you in the think tank will see me Sunday, where we'll get to talk about Sandy Knipe's disappearance. Thank you, everyone. Cannot thank you enough. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving myself, my assistants, and Unfound a little piece of your Wednesday evening. Good night.